So Kay, you're doing a phenomenal job in merging all the requests to the standard, but could you tell us when the standard will be ready?
So again, this is a thing that we can't exactly say when it will be ready. We can say that we released our statement of work in January of last year, and we can say that previous standards have taken between 12 and 18 months from that point to be done.
So 12 to 18 months from January.
That's right.
Okay, so let's assume a standard is ready and it's ratified and it's now made public. So let's sort of go around the table. Maybe I'll start with Paul. Will your company support OpenXR standard? Will Oculus support the OpenXR standard, or are you just in it to sort of figure out?
for the travel to Chicago.
For the travel.
I'm just in it for the Taipei trip next year. Oculus intends to fully support the standard to the extent possible, and any extensions that exist that are reasonable and rational will also support. Oculus, as you know, has both a mobile and a PC division, and we intend to support it to the extent possible on both sides of that.
Okay, and Nick, will Epic support this?
Be supported for a period of time, but eventually we think everything will be OpenXR based on our side.
Paul, do you want to answer that as well?
The answer for Oculus is practically identical. Our long-term goal is to dump both our mobile and our PC APIs and use OpenXR exclusively. There will, of course, be a transition period, which will be some undetermined amount of time. It has to do with backwards compatibility with applications that are in development or applications that still need the old API. But while applications written to the older API will need to continue to run indefinitely, the publishing of an SDK for new applications start development on will eventually switch to an OpenXR only API.
That's a good point. There are thousands of VR apps out there that are targeting OpenVR right now, and they're not going to stop working. That backward compatibility is important, and it will
within the same ecosystem. So between forming technical subgroups for mobile concerns or using extensions where applicable, we tried to make sure that everybody's supported.
So with all the Google activity this week, I wasn't sure if Kay and Joe are going to be representing the same company pretty much. I guess not. But Paul, you guys have both a mobile product and a desktop product, and you have also a representative from the mobile side. How do you see the sort of differences between mobile and desktop as it relates to OpenXR?
At Oculus, we have, as I was saying before, we have a Gear VR group and we have our PC group. And for the last few years, we've worked together to talk about our shared interests. And so before even getting here, we had a lot of ideas about how an API needed to work to support both mobile and PC. And a lot of that stuff has continued into the evolution of the OpenXR API. And our mobile guy, Cass Everett, he was there in Chicago last week, or actually it was earlier this week, sitting right with us. And we think that it's entirely possible to support both at the same time. We felt that a couple of years ago. I think that the way the API is evolving is looking good to solve that. We need to make sure that the mobile side has as much influence as the PC side. Sometimes in our meetings, there's a little bit of some of the talk sometimes focuses on PC-centric stuff when mobile and standalone devices are a major part of the future of VR, especially in coming years. I think we're getting there. I think. But Kay can speak a little bit for the mobile side with respect to that. I can speak for our mobile side to some degree, but I would say this is looking like it's going to work out fairly well.
Okay. I'm going to ask one more question and then vendors. Why would the Oculus runtime be better than the Valve runtime? Or will one be better than the other?
Because Paul's a way better programmer than me. Obvious.
You want
well, ideally the API allows some differentiation in the way that the runtime works. Runtimes, while they're essentially accomplishing the same thing, getting a VR display in front of the user, how they do it, I think, differs between runtimes, and hopefully the API and standard will allow some flexibility there. If anything, just to allow somebody to go and do some new great thing, and not be impeded by the API in doing it. We have some technology at Oculus, ASW, if you've heard of that, and our goal is to make it so that the API effectively supports ASW, but also allows anybody else to implement their own ASW as well on top of that API.
Joe, do you want a microphone? Is still available for questions, but in the meantime, I wanted to ask the panel, what was to you is the most sort of contentious point in the discussions about the OpenXR standard, and on the flip side, what was the most positive surprise that you had in these discussions? Who wants to go first?
I can speak for the latter question pretty easily, and I would say the answer to that is that things are going fairly smoothly. There's quite a bit of agreement on things. A lot of these questions, like Joe brought up the eye implant situation and how in the future that's something that, when that comes around, we'll want to converge on that. But in a sense, all the API development that's happening right now is a lot of that same discussions already. The discussions around tracking, around how displays are identified, and how input is happening. A lot of it is us agreeing on things and realizing that there's a lot of commonality in our needs, and as a result, I think the API is coming together pretty cleanly and pretty smoothly and fairly rapidly without a whole lot of. There's not a lot of bickering. It doesn't happen like you hear about in other places sometimes.
I definitely concur on.
To you, the Unreal Engine guys implementing it.
Yeah, we would basically do the piping up through our input layer that we have in the engine and make sure there's a strong mapping between that. So the hope is the end user, if you're using an engine middleware, be it Unreal or Unity, the abstractions that are already in place would just be wrapped.
They would hold. Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I can say about this is that the last couple of years we've already been working with Unity and Unreal and other engine developers, and a lot of our goals and what we've done in the design are based on 2 years of experience or more of dealing with these kind of problems. So we have quite a bit of experience in understanding a lot of these use cases, and our goal is to address all the ones that are relevant.
And of course, join the group and help us figure it out.
Yeah.
Next question.